but it's also a game changer for the accounting industry. I think of it as a small step for blockchain because they're already open and transparent, but giant leap for accounting because, we went from 30 days worth of assurance that's already stale once you have the opinion in your hand, because it's a look back of 30 days, to real time every 30 seconds on demand. So we think that there's wider application for this, and we've got some exciting things in the pipeline. So watch this space.
Welcome to Hedera Hashgraph's Gossip About Gossip. If you are a developer, an entrepreneur, crypto enthusiast, or just trying to learn more about how distributed ledger technology and Hedera Hashgraph will impact your industry, then you'll love the episodes that we have coming up. Bookmark us, add us to your podcast app, and stay tuned.
Hey there, and welcome to Hedera Hashgraph Gossip About Gossip. I'm joined today by Cooper Coons. How's it going, Cooper?
It's great. How are you, Paul?
Very good. I was listening to a live stream you did with Ben Chevaliero from Acor, and he was talking about HashLoad and HashLog, how they effectively add data provenance, data custody to amongst a variety of data streams, healthcare data. That was a really cool session you did.
Yeah, thank you. It's super cool. Acor is one of those teams that used to run a Hedera mirror node, but they've actually refactored their service to provide kind of cross-validation across a variety of mirror nodes, which is kind of a unique model in the Hedera ecosystem.
Well, not perhaps as unique as we might once have thought, because our guest today is Noah Buxton from Armanino, and Noah's going to talk to us about their TrustExplorer solution, which kind of reminded me of what Acor is doing with their hash star services. Welcome, Noah. How are you?
Hey, Paul. Doing well. Hey, Cooper.
Yeah, so you saw the context. We're talking about data provenance and trust. How about you give us your provenance, your chain of custody? How did you end up in this space?
Sure. Happy to do that. Sounds like Acor is actually solving for something a little bit slightly different, which would be kind of neat to contrast in our discussion today. I guess I could start with a little bit of a personal intro. Who am I? I'm a director, as you said, at Armanino LLP, and we're a top 25 accounting firm based in the United States. I've been at Armanino for 4 years. I'm a director there, and my practice has evolved, really. I started out in risk assurance and advisory, and I helped build that practice with a focus on IT assurance for lots of venture-backed startups, but also mid-market and some publicly traded companies. In doing that work, I became exposed to some of our very early startup clients who were dealing in crypto, and participated on the team that basically did the financial statement audit for what is now the US's largest virtual currency exchange by volumes. And that was quite a ride, quite a learning experience. So got kind of thrown into the deep end is one way to think of it. And really, it also grabbed me personally. I loved the work. It was so interesting, so many new issues, so many unsolved issues. And so I started to focus more on that. And we, as a firm, we're doing this work really 5 years ago. So ahead of many of the other firms in the US. Through that, we gained quite the resume of clients. And really in mid 2018, we said as a practice, or as a firm, we said, there's really something more here. We've got people in tax who are doing structuring and compliance work for large exchanges and lots of other big players, and all this great audit work going on, and other work in consulting. How do we sort of put a tip on this spear? How do we really treat this as an industry focus? And so we did that as a firm in early 2019. Again, sort of back to the personal piece, a guy who's lucky enough today to do kind of two things on a daily basis. I get to act as a subject matter expert and help on what end up being a lot of assurance or audit engagements for crypto exchanges, but I also get to sort of product manage and build new solutions, which I find, again, that's where I feel really lucky. So get to build new products for the firm and work with great projects like Hedera.
Presumably TrustExplorer is one of those products that you manage?
That's right, yeah. In that category of new and novel things, we built TrustExplorer. It's been quite the story and quite the evolution from where it started. In its inception, it was the first real-time assurance solution for a stablecoin issuer. This is a pretty technical audience, so I don't think I need to explain what a stablecoin is so much, but some people say it's one of the best kinds of crypto because it's got the benefits of crypto without potentially the volatility, right? It can be this remittance device or safe harbor. These centralized stablecoin offerings that your listeners are probably familiar with, the top sort of 4 in market cap being USDC, PAX, the Gemini dollar, and TrueUSD, are centralized stablecoins. And the idea there is that a real dollar, so to speak, gets put in a bank account to back up every token that's in circulation. And that's really the peg or the stability mechanism there. And really, so that's the first use case that we went to solve. And our client in that engagement is Trust Token, the issuer of the TrueUSD stablecoin, which I think is 3rd by market cap. And really what they were looking for was more trust, more transparency for their user base around this collateral actually being available, right? Is there really a dollar in the bank account? And this was middle of 2018 when we were having this discussion, and it also coincided with a lot of information in the marketplace about the number 1 cap stablecoin, Tether, and whether that was actually tethered. That's really the problem they were looking to solve. And so what we built was really, I guess it's a full stack solution, you could say, in terms of Armanino owning and controlling sort of every piece of it, meaning that we host the Ethereum nodes and load balance. We host the Binance chain node that they also issue on, as opposed to using a third-party data service to get that. And then we built an application on top of that. For first version of TrustExplorer, what it really did is brought off-chain data and on-chain data together in one place. And that was saying, what's the circulating supply out here? We can query that from the blockchain. And what's the number of dollars sitting in escrow? And we query that with API connections every 30 seconds. And so if you look on the web today, you can see at realtimeattest.trustexplorer.io, you can see that solution, and anyone can go and interact with it. That's really the first version, is just that dashboarding sort of level of assurance.
And the assurance that you're attesting to in real time is, as you say, the fact that there are indeed dollars backing up the coins that are on Ethereum and Binance.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And for context, what had been commonplace or become commonplace in the stablecoin industry is to issue or have an independent accountant issue periodic attests over those balances, right? So to tick and tie the bank account to the blockchain. And actually, Trust Token was the first company to do that, and they did that on a monthly basis and published them. A good measure of transparency. What we said after version 1.0 of TrustExplorer was, gosh, there's really more of an opportunity here, because what we're doing at the end of the day is collecting what you could say is audit evidence. And we're collecting much more of it than you would be able to in a traditional engagement. We're collecting it every 30 seconds. We're also being able to perform sort of procedures, or what we call in the audit world, substantive procedures. We're able to do that in real time because, again, we're collecting everything and we can do this automatic reconciliation. So why couldn't we build sort of a real audit product on top of that? And that was really TrustExplorer's second iteration. We sort of scrapped and actually rebuilt the whole thing and added an attest module. So now a user can go to that same site that I just told you about. They can click and a report will be generated. And our system on the back end is doing those reconciliation checks, checking a number of other things, and then issuing or minting an opinion in real time. And that's the first time that's ever been done. So we were very excited about that, right? It's a nice little use case that we could sort of build that functionality on top of, but it's also a game changer for the accounting industry. I think of it as a small step for blockchain because they're already open and transparent, but giant leap for accounting because, we went from 30 days worth of assurance that's already stale once you have the opinion in your hand, because it's a look back of 30 days, to real time every 30 seconds on demand. So we think that there's wider application for this, and we've got some exciting things in the pipeline. So watch this space.
Yeah, indeed.
That's awesome, Noah. It sounds like you guys are going far beyond what anyone would expect a traditional auditing firm to do. You said that you're standing up full Ethereum nodes, building applications. How is this something that you guys saw yourself getting into? And how do you see kind of the rest of the auditing industry either accepting or rejecting distributed ledgers, whether they're Ethereum or Hedera?
Yeah, great question. I still have spirited conversations with people in the firm about what we're doing. Are we building software? Are we a software company? Or are we a public accounting firm? And I I tend to think that, say, the auditor of the future looks a lot more like a data analytics person, or maybe an engineering, someone with an engineering or CS background, than they do like the current auditor, which is someone who comes out of sort of a business or accounting degree. And I just think that's because the future of finance is changing. It's changing so quickly. If you look at the DeFi space right now, I'm not even sure. I don't think most accountants are ready for that in any way, shape, or form. And that's really where we were 5 years ago too, with sort of digital assets, blockchain, and crypto. Firms are really having trouble getting their arms around the new technology. I guess there's two pieces you're asking about there. Is one, why is Armanino building software for this space? We're building software for this space because we see that there's a need for it, and we think there's a real opportunity. We think that's where the warm current is going right now. So we're paddling in that direction. And I think that we've already seen positive response. So I think we're getting some validation on that. The other piece that you're asking about is whether blockchains will be accepted. And I think we're starting to see that. I think audit firms are now taking on financial statement audits in the US. The ICO craze we're on sort of the tail, the downside of that now. And so firms are feeling a little bit more secure about getting involved with some of these projects. And so I think it's picking up, but the expertise is not widely found in the marketplace still. Even as a firm, right, we're still having trouble hiring the people that we need to grow because the skill set is not widely available.
So I think the last week and the flash loans so-called hack demonstrated that DeFi is not ready for DeFi, much less the accounting industry. Noah, you sort of described an evolution of TrustExplorer where you started and displayed a dashboard, and then you evolved to add an attestation or an opinion and made that available. Presumably, you're also going to evolve in what you will attest to. So perhaps not just quote unquote, reconciling stable coins and fiat backing, but what other propositions do you imagine attestations being relevant to in the future?
Yeah, that's the exciting forefront there. I think the easy things to imagine are, where it's kind of right in front of you. You've got off-chain and on-chain, and they don't meet very well. So commodity-backed coins, I think, are a real opportunity. There's very few of those that have enough traction in the marketplace to sort of support, really, frankly, the cost of this type of system. But I think that those continue to grow. I think tokenization of commodities is certainly going to pick up over the coming years. So that's an easy use case. I think some of the other interesting ones could be in DeFi, right? So is there a way for us, sort of as this traditionally trusted figure or trusted role in society as public accountants, to play a role in that DeFi ecosystem? Maybe it's providing some sort of transparency as to pricing. You mentioned the flash crash, or being an oracle even for pricing. I think that could be a pretty cool space. And then I think that certainly what we want to talk about a little bit more today, what we've done with Hedera, is another step forward towards that future, because really what we're seeing is, and we can ask me about sort of our trusted node product under TrustExplorer, but I think that falls into this bucket of what else can we provide assurance over, and this is filling a gap in the marketplace right now.
Do you see the service you provide on Hedera manifesting differently than on Ethereum or Binance, the other chains you've already built on?
Yeah, or could you just give us an overview kind of what your trusted node is and how it fits into kind of your larger goals or efforts with TrustExplorer?
Yeah, let's start there. TrustExplorer, as I told you, started as this stablecoin assurance platform and moved to real-time attest. As needs opened in the marketplace, we also see that, well, TrustExplorer is really more of an umbrella for a number of products. It's a suite of products or services. And the next product that we added is what's called Trusted Node. We call it Trusted Node, or Trusted Node as a service. And the first blockchain supported on that is Hedera, or non-blockchain blockchain. The first DAG supported is Hedera. So we're very excited about that. The evolution is really pretty interesting because we have this stablecoin use case. I mean, we just set that aside because it's really so different than what we're doing with Hedera, but it still is this need for trust and transparency. And so what we learned is that this is happening, I think, across the digital asset space, but with Hedera also, is that there's enterprise users who have material balances of HBAR and are doing material transactions across this network. And these are, for instance, look at the council members, right? These are some of the biggest companies in the world. They are large global multinational companies and firms. They all have audit requirements. And I think, as adoption continues on Hedera, a number of the players that are going to transact across Hedera are also going to have audit requirements, whether they're regulatory driven, investor driven, it doesn't matter so much, but they're going to have to be audited. And the promise of blockchain, right, is wonderful. And we're starting to see adoption and more tools to use and interact and transact with blockchains. But we're not seeing easy ways to get the data back off chain for auditors, for management, for consultants, for regulators. And so I think that's kind of the space we're filling right now, is that in an audit engagement for an enterprise, say it's a large exchange that's holding HBAR on whether custodially for its customers or to create a market, that they're going to have a regulatory audit requirement. And when the auditor comes and says, show us the accounts that you hold, show us the balances, show us a selection of transactions, management's going to say, great, go run a mirror node, and then you can extract the data yourself. And the auditor really doesn't have that capability. And so that's the space we're filling. And what we did is built an API based, but with a web front end service where an auditor, management, a finance team, someone from the finance team can easily interact with the full copy, essentially, of the Hashgraph ledger.
So is the proposition that Armanino will run a mirror node, and that is the trusted node because you're actively participating in consensus, and then listen to particular topics or accounts of interest on behalf of your clients?
That certainly could be a future. Right now, I think it works pretty well that we're not involved in consensus, but we're just listening to the network through the mirror node service because, well, for financial statement purposes, when audit becomes involved, it's kind of nice that we don't have our thumb on the scale in any way, so to speak, right? We're simply listening. So that's kind of a nice solution. But I think that could be something in the future for sure.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, it's that model that kind of reminded me of the HashLoad model by which HashLoad, at least in its current form, looks at multiple mirrors and validates a given transaction against that transaction as reported by those different node or different mirrors. And if the hashes match, then the inference is that the transaction has not been corrupted.
Yeah, to go full circle there back to HashLoad, I think that's why I mentioned it at the beginning, is that I think they actually have plans to integrate your guys' trusted mirror node API into their kind of cross-node validation services.
I love it.
Yeah, it's super cool. But
great.
Would you maybe want to talk about why a product like HashLoad would want to use your guys' trusted mirror node rather than some of the other ones that are out there? Like what kind of auditing or compliance guarantees do they have about those transactions?
Yeah, perfect segue, I think, because that's kind of one point I wanted to make. It sounds like, again, it's sort of, as you can tell, being a little bit ignorant about what their plans are, but looking forward to learning more. Our view of, or the way we say that this is a trusted mirror node service or a trusted node isn't to say that it's the only node anyone should look at, or that, we still believe in this decentralized approach, but it is to say that we've built a compliance program around it. And so really it's trusted in the sense that an auditor can understand it sort of from end to end. They can say, okay, I understand the way this blockchain works. I understand the way the data gets to the mirror node, and I understand the way that Armanino processes it and makes it available to me. And that's why it's trustworthy to that type of user. In terms of actually checking mirror nodes against mirror nodes, I think that's a fantastic sort of, I don't even know what to call it exactly yet.
Like an integration point, maybe?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, an integration point, or the fact that they are in a sort of decentralized way checking. They're providing a data integrity sort of service or layer, right? Is what they're doing.
Yeah, and you guys are the audited, compliant, trusted data behind that kind of data integrity service. And I'm sure that that's just one of what will inevitably become, many and dozens in the Hedera community. But for the Hedera Governing Council, I think you touched on this too. The fact that these our council members all have to run nodes on the Hedera network means that our council members can choose whether or not to accept the HBAR, the node payments for running those mainnet nodes. And it's really, really exciting that we're starting to grow out not just the council, but also grow out and continuously decentralize the ecosystem of mirror nodes and auditing and ways that people can actually build in the ecosystem and not just participate. So this is really exciting.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, we're certainly excited about it. I feel like we're very early days still, which is a great place to be. I'm happy to be part of this sort of the triple entry accounting world, which I think is still so new.
I was going to say that I didn't think I'd ever say that I thought accounting was exciting, but this manifestation is. Noah, I read on a white paper on the Armanino site the following quote: "The role of CPAs is further solidified in times of technological disruption because CPAs and auditors can provide vital mechanisms of trust as anchors in the sea of change." It was interesting and exciting to hear how Armanino and your own practice is making that true. Thanks very much for joining us today.
Yeah, we appreciate that. We're, in some ways, we think we're putting the trust back in trustless.
That's gonna make us rework a whole bunch of content.
You're going to see that on the Hedera Shopify store soon.
Noah says.
That idea, though, of trust back in trustless, I think is kind of interesting because while we believe in decentralization, there are these points, and maybe they're only periodic, but there are these points where you have to look to a trusted player or a known entity or someone who's built a control environment that they can demonstrate to you to get that level of trust. And I think especially in the enterprise space, that's what we're seeing. If you look across just sort of crypto generally, you see some of the large exchanges now producing SOC reports or getting SOC audited as a measure of trust and transparency to their user base. And so it's a decentralized future, but there still are centralized players. And to the extent that there have to be trusted auditors and other trusted services within.
Yeah, I think there'll always be the opportunity and value of interpretation and analysis, and the sorts of trustlessness that ledgers provide is relatively low level. It's about data integrity and provenance. And still need somebody to interpret what that provenance means. Thanks again, Noah. Great talking to you today.
Been a pleasure. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you for listening to Hedera Hashgraph's Gossip About Gossip. If you liked the episode, please subscribe, rate and review, and also share and tell your friends.
Or connect with us on social media like Twitter, Instagram, etc. at Hashgraph, particularly if you want to leave us feedback on the podcast. We look forward to hearing from you.